Go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 6:32. I understand the audio is understandable out in Zoom land. And so we'll proceed on to item number 3, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or corrections to our agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Omar.
No, that's okay. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approved tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay, no opposed. Item number 4, approval of our minutes. Can we do them all just in one bulk?
Sure.
Okay. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or corrections to our minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion on that one.
So move to approve the minutes
For both meetings?
from both meetings. Yes. Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes for both the March 8th and the March 10th meetings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to new business. Our first application, 2022-0329, 11145 and 11155 Falls Avenue, the vacation of the lot line. And Nate will go ahead and have a staff report on that one.
Yeah, so this is something we've actually been working on for a while. I wasn't exactly sure of. We had a process defined in our code, but we didn't really have the application form or really anything that was structured to fill out. So long story short, I consulted with El Paso County Planning and just to kind of touch base and compare notes and see how they process these types of things. But basically, Mike and Margaret Fry just want to combine their parcels into one schedule number so that they can proceed with further development plans, a garage, whatever they want to do on their lot. And so this is the best long-term solution for them. So basically, and because there's a couple of complications, just mainly because of naming and maiden name versus married name and what names the properties are in currently. So just want to thank Michael and Margaret for sticking with me and having patience through this, but we got all the documentation in line, fees paid and everything. Up on the screen are the vacation considerations, and basically, you know, it's straightforward. It's not affecting, doesn't meet any of the criteria to make it not an administrative vacation. So administrative vacation is the easiest way to proceed. So they own both lots. There's no utilities, no neighbors, no easements affected. So everything is in line. The packet includes some deed information just to be sure that we know that the quitclaim deeds are going to be filled out to straighten up the naming of the ownership of the lots. And other than creating a new form, which I did for this project and any subsequent similar projects, everything's seems to be in order as far as I'm concerned. So I think probably I'm obviously any questions for me or Mike could be done now. Mike should probably technically, I think, probably leave the room just for open discussion. And just because it is, and then also recuse himself from the vote, but obviously we're here for questions.
The process I've used before is, okay, we go through a process now where staff gives us a report. We ask if there's any questions or comments from the commission. And then we allow the applicant to make a statement if they want to. And then the commission can ask them questions. And then at that time, it's probably best if you actually step out. I've done that in school boards back in Kansas before.
Okay.
And that seems to be the preferred
Yep. Okay.
method. And then we go ahead and if there's any further discussion on the commission, and then go ahead on the vote. And so with that, commissioners, do you have any questions, comments for Nate?
The question I have for Nate, what is outstanding that has not, the quitclaim or anything else that still needs to be completed? Is there anything outstanding that hasn't been?
No, just looking at the packet, everything's here. They went to the title company and did the title commitment for title insurance, which you see here, which is specified in the code. The form, I'm looking here, somehow I missed the actual form that I made up that will actually be the final doc. I have it on completed, but for some reason I didn't include it in that.
You mean the one I filled out?
No.
Okay.
I can bring it up here and then attach it later, but it's basically the form that I had to create because we didn't have one for this process already. So give me 1 second here.
Make a comment while he's looking.
Share your screen if you want to, if it's on.
Oh, yeah, apologize. That would help. Okay, so there you should see, this is the form that I actually created. So this will be the actual official document that gets signed by the town, and then it is passed on to El Paso County for recording. So as you can see, it basically just has the current property descriptions and addresses, and then some language basically taken from the county procedures, the way that they handle these. And, so as soon as this is passed, basically the owners sign and date it, and I can sign and date it and give it approval date from Planning Commission. This is the only document that somehow I missed putting it in the actual packet, but everything's there as far as the title, insurance commitment, those deeds, straightening out the name situations that are being recorded, and all the explanation about all the criteria for the administrative vacation.
Nate, thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for Nate from the commissioners? Okay, we'll move on to an applicant statement. Mike, if you want to make an applicant
Oh,
statement.
I just thought I'd comment quickly. We did we went to the title company and did the search and checked to make sure there were no easements or anything like that, and it was clear. And Margaret owned lot 5, if you see the picture of the 2 lots. And she bought that before we got married, so it was in her maiden name. And then we bought lot 4, 6 or 7 years ago. So we've quit claim deed both of those. She quit claimed lot 5 to herself, and then we together quit claimed 4 to her. So she's going to own the entire property. And the property to the south, which is the bottom part of the page, if you're looking at the plot plan, is owned by Margaret and her sisters. And of course, you see on the right side of that section, or that new property, there's an alley for I guess the town put an alley in there at one point in time. It's not used, it's just a right of way. So no neighbors or anything like that are going to be impacted at all by this. So it's just a simple vacating a lot line between 2 lots.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? If not, we probably ought to ask you to. All right.
You can just go that way. Yeah.
Commissioners, any further discussion with the applicant not present? And we probably had a note that Mike left the room at 6:42.
Not seeing any questions on Zoom.
Okay. Hang on a minute. And if there's no additional questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the vacation of the lot lines in between the two lots on Falls Avenue as detailed in this packet.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the application 2022-0329 for 1140 for 11145 and 11155 Falls Avenue, vacation of lot line. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did Paul say aye? I thought I heard him.
Yes.
Okay. Aye for me too. So motion passes. We'll invite Mike to come on back in. 6:44 is his return time.
Okay, sorry, while I scroll through this to our next item.
Okay. Next item, item number 6, application 2022-0223, 6796 Pine Street, an architectural and zoning application for single-family home addition and a right-of-way easement request. And we'll go ahead with the staff report on that one.
Yeah, and I'm, let's see, let me double check the Zoom participant list here. And Eagles Nest, you're not the Bantas, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I here, so this is another somewhat complicated one here. This is one part of it is a normal architectural zoning application for the single family home addition. There's a project summary down here towards the bottom of the page that explains all that. That seems to be pretty straightforward. One element that that was removed from the plan is there's a deck extension that the applicants wanted to do, but because that side of the house is considered the side and not the front, well, either way, it would have been a setback issue. But because the current deck is already within the setback, so technically it's a non-conforming use, which our code says can't be continued. So the applicants were understanding of that and basically removed that from their plans. The other unique situation is the entry portico, which is part of the design of the house, and Mr. Banta is his own architect essentially, but he was very adamant about having this portico as part of this entryway to the house. That does cross over the right-of-way, over the property line into the right-of-way. So we talked a lot about what the possibility of that solution is. In the past, I think the commission has used revocable permits, which I don't think are a good solution for this type of problem. And I spoke to the town attorney a little bit about it, and she agreed. And we decided that this right-of-way easement is the best way to go to try to solve this problem. But essentially, the portico, I'll scroll down to the pictures here, 'cause it's a lot easier to see. But let's see if we can, I'm going to use the other picture. So you can see that with the ILC, the house is already very close to that right-of-way line. Of course, that's how it's been. These concrete, the ILC shows these concrete block retaining walls here. And those you can see on these pictures. And I'm just trying to illustrate here the actual functionality of the road does not really match up with, darn it, I thought I had a picture closer up here. Okay, not going crazy. All right. So we can see here, so this is the portico area that is proposed. There's this concrete block wall you can see here kind of behind the material that's stacked here. And then there's also to the left this other concrete wall that has been there for, I don't know how long. But the purpose of this is to illustrate that the right-of-way, even though the right-of-way property line is over here, basically even to the left of this, where that dumpster sits, the functional use of this road is quite a ways away. This is the curve of that road, and I sort of just drew this line to show that to the left of that line is essentially been used as kind of a parking area slash, part of this property functionally and not part of the road. So that was the justification that we used to come up with the easement idea, and just saying that it's not, by granting the easement, the town is not going to affect the functionality of this road at all. The applicant could add this portico as designed as they wish. And the actual easement language does contain, the easement contract, I should say, does contain language that the town could revoke this easement in the future if it ever caused any problems. So basically that was the town attorney drew it up and was satisfied with the whole situation. So again, here's the kind of the overview of the plan, the portico going out into the technical right-of-way here, but it doesn't go any further than these concrete blocks. Walls already exist. Again, I don't know how long they've existed, but they've been there for a while technically in that right-of-way area. The easement would be, right now, the town code and the fee list describes an easement of having a $50 a year fee, which I think that's the way it is now. I think in the future, easements are a good way to solve these kinds of development wishes, I guess, from people. Without, depending on the situation, without affecting the town's function. There are no utilities that are going through that immediate area. And again, it's not a major, there's no true right-of-way functionality going through that. So I guess at this time, hey, David. This time the applicant just walked in, so he can answer any questions, or I can answer any questions.
Nate, I do have a question. Do we have a copy of the easement language?
Yes, it's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
Yep.
With the verbiage that basically says the.
Yes, yeah, the
Yeah,
entire.
sad, I'm sorry.
Let's
Hey.
get to it.
Nate, I have some questions, several questions. How is this not a setback issue?
Well, it is sort of the same as the non-conforming use issue with the deck, but if the applicant wanted to, they could, I guess, appeal, or let's just say, so if they were very strong about the deck extension being something that they really absolutely needed or wanted, they could appeal to the board basically to allow a variance for that. I think this front entryway is kind of the same situation. It's technically a non-conforming use because it is within that setback, but the applicant has decided to pay for an application for an easement and pay the legal fees for drawing that up. So that's what the applicant has chosen to do. And now it's in front of you to decide to approve or decline.
Next question. Does the town actually have a mechanism for collection of this $50 of your fee? Are we actually collecting easement fees?
It's similar to the revocable permits. Those have been kept in not very good records over the years. I've been trying to gather those records and track down those people for payment. But this would be a similar situation. I would actually recommend, I don't know how long, how soon or if it would even be approved. I would actually recommend for an easement moving forward that there would be no fee because it's an administrative hassle, especially for $50. And the purpose of an easement is to be recorded with the property so that title searches find it for future transactions. So whereas the revocable permit is not typically a recorded document, I suppose it could be, but it's not as good of a mechanism to allow for this type of situation. It's not as good as an easement is, according to my thoughts and the conversations I've had with the attorney. So
what would the process for revoking an easement, what would that look like?
The board would essentially do a resolution to revoke the easement. And then at that point, the homeowner would have to remove the portico.
The legal language that I found, the document, apologize for not seeing that earlier, but it basically says the town reserves the right of way easement for maintaining any existing town facilities or utilities in the township, not be under any obligation to inspect, repair, or maintain the easement area. So it's basically if the town decides to take it back, they can take it back.
Well, here's just to tell this commission what my concern is. We already in Green Mountain Falls have a lot of exceptions, easements, things going into places where they shouldn't be, whether it's grandfathered or not. And I know that a big issue for the town is fires and being able to have access for firefighting equipment, access for egress, ingress, people being able to leave in the situation of a fire, and our roads are too narrow as it is. And I know that at some point in time, there's been talk of widening our roads so that we'll be more safe for people to leave in the case of fire, to save lives, and to get our firefighting equipment in, to make our roads smaller and more narrow with using up easements that we already have is concerning to me for that reason. in this situation, Nate, I can totally understand. That it's not being used currently and all those kinds of things. My big concern is the narrowness of our roads and how we need every bit of right of way we can get for the purpose I already mentioned regarding fire situations. So that's my only hesitation. Otherwise, it totally makes sense. And I guess I'd like to hear from any other commissioners or anybody else regarding that concern. I suppose we can revoke that easement if at some point in time we needed it for that purpose.
Any other commissioners, questions, comments?
This is Mike Fry. It looks to me like from the drawing you showed us that there's plenty of room out there in the road. And it doesn't look like this small addition, like you say, it's not past those cement block walls anyway. So I don't think that poses much of a problem from the standpoint of a little wider road at some point. You can see there that we've got plenty of room if we need to widen it a little bit. And so, and I want to make a comment on the revocable permit idea. I think that's kind of a bad idea from the standpoint of the person that's getting it, because if the town can come back and make you tear something down, I'd like to see us decide it's either going to be there, it's not going to be there, and it's not some future group might decide to have you tear it down, because that's that would be an expensive and kind of an intrusive proposition. So I'd like to see us think about something besides a revocable permit.
Well, this is not this is different than a revocable permit. I think the revocable permit, the revocable permit by name is more like a temporary solution, even though it hasn't been used like that in the recent past. So that was my concern with going that direction with this, which is why I went to the easement. And the easement is, I'm not an expert on easement agreements, but I suspect that, with all the utility easements and different easements that are out there between neighbors and things, to me, it's a more permanent solution, but there's always going to be that language for the town to try to protect the town and to make sure it can keep its right of way if it absolutely needs to. I mean, the other avenue to go down in these situations would be selling right of way, and considering that, but I don't, that's even more permanent, obviously, and more detrimental to the town as a overall philosophy, I guess. But anyway, I don't know if
Commissioner Ives.
I did have a question. The roads shift, boundaries shift through town. It's been that way forever. But do we know what the minimum width for the road is now that it's shifted? Where's the north boundary at? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean as far as survey measurements or.
Well, if you look, the road, the way the house is laid out, and they put those retaining walls in there, they've moved the boundary of the road. So what's the boundary on the other side? That's my question. Do we still maintain our minimum width of a roadway with an easement, an official easement there? I mean, the road's obviously physically shifted, but where's the boundary at on the other side of the road? Do we know?
Just looking at that, I mean, I don't know the measurement. I didn't go out and measure that, but if you can see on this photo, basically the road is bounded by the trees and the poles. So up here, there's that north side of the street, there's those utility poles.
I understand physically where it's at, but where's the actual boundary? Do we know where the actual boundary of the road is?
No, we would have to get a survey in order to figure that out.
Because if we've shifted the road, it's physically shifted. It's already happened. But where's the other boundary at? And who owns the other side of the road? Are they encroaching in the existing roadway? Or are encroaching on their property because of the shift? You see what I mean?
I don't understand your question exactly, but I can say that in general, the right of ways, the way they were platted out, are generally wider than the actual what the road actually is right now. So a lot of times there's leeway, like we see here. We see the right of way line based on that ILC is coming feet from the house here, basically where this tree is, and going up. But you can even see past this property up the hill, there's a tree right there. There's a tree in the right of way that would be,
Yeah, I understand.
you know what I mean? So I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm answering your
Not really.
question.
Because the road shifts as they're taking care of and everything else.
Mhm.
What I'm asking is where is the physical boundary to the other side of the road? Where is it at? I know where it's at now, but where was it platted? And does that impact the width of the road based on the ownership of the property on the other side?
Yeah. Can you pull
We're
up the
basically
areas?
whacking a chunk out of the road right now.
Mhm.
Okay, that's existing road where it's sitting with that piece where the dumpster is and all that stuff.
Right.
That's roadway. So
And so is
we're
this,
looking at an easement for them to do the construction. I
Mhm.
understand that, but
Yeah.
where's the boundary on the other side? Are we physically changing the width of the road by removing that section? Somebody owns
I
the other
don't
side
think
of that.
so. We're not shifting. We're just carving out a little polygon to basically allow that 4 foot, 13 foot, 8 foot cutout, basically like a cookie cutter. And so I think this is actually a pretty good demonstration or illustration of how it actually is. These lines with the white are actually, well, it's not exact, but this is the concept of that's where the actual people drive, or where people are able to drive. Now, in this case, it would be shifted more that up to the north and west because of how it actually is on the ground. But what this illustrates is that all throughout town, there's this, for better or worse, there's this buffer on either side of the actual drivable street that is right of way.
Right.
So,
So
many
we're
times
just
there's,
reducing that,
yeah,
we think.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are reducing that by that polygon, which is 4 feet or whatever the dimensions are, 4 feet by 13 feet by 6 feet, whatever that little cutout is that we defined the easement as. But we're not we're not affecting the other side of the street at all, or anyone's ownership.
Yeah, but if we know where the line is on the other side.
Well, in this case, the line is defined by utility poles on the other side, which wouldn't or shouldn't exist on people's property. So in this case, we can see that those utility poles that exist across the street are kind of holding that line, if you will, that usable line. Now, the right of way could go 5 feet past these utility lines. And actually right here, you can see there's a gas meter here on the photo that should be in the right of way. So probably that right of way extends almost as far into those other people's yards, functional yards, than it does into the Bantas, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have the satellite overview?
Somewhere.
Well, I mean, generally,
Hey, if it helps, this is Paul. I have it on my screen. I can share my screen. I have the satellite view from the county assessor's office. And to kind of Sean's question, it looks like there's, the road is building with some buffer.
And I would say this, I mean, you can tell that in this case, the house, on this image, it shows that the house is actually going over that line, but we know from the ILC that it's not. It's only, it's close, but it doesn't go over that line. This, I don't know what this doesn't have the best resolution that's good enough to determine exactly what this white thing is here. I don't know if that's the wall or if that's part of the existing house, but we know in general that these parcel lines should be shifted up northwest here because of the ILC. So anyway, but we can see already that if this road were to be, if the town came in and said, we want to widen this road, there's several trees here that are already in the right of way that would have to be removed. There would be significant work done that's not even, I mean, that's, obviously would get closer to where this easement is, but I don't feel that this easement is protruding enough to be the problem if this road was determined to be widened, I guess.
Well, it's not even that, but I agree, the generally accepted minimum width for a road is 20 feet plus 4 feet on each side, is pretty typical. I just want to make sure we're not infringing on that. And I think in the future going forward, that's a consideration to make sure that we're not reducing the minimum width just for emergency equipment and things just exactly like Lamar said.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think these should always be taken case by case, and they shouldn't, just because one easement may be approved, that doesn't mean that other easements are going to be approved. It says that in the code as well. And
I agree.
So,
and we shouldn't pretend to, if we grant an easement and somebody builds on it, that we're going to tell them that we're going to run a bulldozer through it, because it won't work that way.
right.
Okay. Right. Once we've granted this,
There has to be
it's going to be theirs.
Right.
Right. There's a process. We're not just going to change it.
Mhm.
Right.
To answer, I guess, another question, from what I've seen on the sheets, the plat sheets that have the parcel lines from the county, I think in general, our right of ways are about 40 feet defined. There may be some that are slightly wider, but I think in general, the alleyways, you can see those are much thinner, like 15 or 20 or whatever. But but anyway, that's kind of the standard that I've seen.
Yeah, this is nothing new for Green Mountain Trails.
Yeah.
Pretty much this is the norm,
Right.
not the exception.
But I think that, and I think Chair Dixon has talked about this before, is because of the constraints that people have trying to improve their properties in this town, what is the way that the town can help them do that? And this, in certain situations, I think this is a reasonable way to do that. If, like I said, if each case is judged on its own and it makes sense and functionally, what's the answer to the question is, functionally, does the town, or what are the likelihoods that the town will need that chunk of right away? I mean, that's, the basic question, I think. So
basically this protrudes 6 feet. Is that accurate?
What's that?
So is it true that this protrudes 6 feet? We're losing 6 feet of right of way. Is that correct?
It's the actual, let me go back to the diagram here. Let's see. Sorry, one of these has the exact measurements. There we go. So it's actually 4.9 feet. This is the intersection of the property line and the design of the house. So 4.9 feet from here to here, 14 feet from here to here, and 6.3 feet from here to here. And that is exactly what the easement document specifies. It's not giving more than that. It's just giving that.
So the most that it protrudes into the easement is 6.3 feet, correct?
Correct.
So assuming that there's 40 feet there, we're losing, we're down to 34 feet, I guess.
Correct.
Or less. 33 and some change.
The applicant is here. He's expressed desire to say something. Are you guys good with that, or
I
at
still
this
have
point? Or do you have a question?
comments
Okay.
I'd like to make. We have right-of-way encroachments, property line encroachments all over town. And, trying to figure out the best way to try to handle things when people do want to make an improvement is just, it tends to be mind-boggling, because we're obviously not going to make someone tear their house down, especially if it's been there for 100 years. So to me, I'm not a fan of selling right away. I know we sold the parcel down on Hondo, but since that was a parcel, it's a little different story, but I'm not a fan of selling right of ways. So to me, the easement actually makes the most sense for the situations that we have in town, as long as we can, like say, get the emergency equipment through and we're not encroaching on that ability to get emergency crews up and down the mountain. So to me, the easement makes the most sense. It gives us the ability to go through a due process type of thing later on if we need to take if we actually do need to have it demolished and take back the right of way. Imagine we would have to go through due process in order to do that. But it still gives us the ability with it actually written into the easement.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if 33 feet is enough to get emergency equipment up and people out, save their lives. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I guess the only thing I'll say to that is that if you look at the pictures, she went past it again. The actual, if you could imagine a large truck going up this, the turning radius is already limited by this giant tree on the corner, which is probably in the right of way or mostly in the right of way. So this portico here, which is, basically going to stick out about to where this pile of material is here. That's not going to affect the turning radius of this corner based on all the other things that are already there.
So.
And if an emergency vehicle needed that space, they could just drive onto that property. I mean, it's not, there's certainly in an emergency situation, there's nothing precluding that. So, yeah, I'm not sure this is a showstopper in this particular case. I get the general issue of giving up right away, but it doesn't seem to apply here.
So the one that we're looking at, the picture right now, is that the one that sticks out the farthest, or is that the shorter one?
That wall?
Yeah.
That's the shorter one. Or, I'm sorry, that's the longer one. It sticks out further into the right of way where this step is here and this tree. But like I said, this tree is really your limiting factor on that turn. And that's, the town could decide to, if it's on right of way, that's another issue I guess the town would have to address if it felt like that turn was not sufficient. But I'm just, my only point, I guess, is that the addition of this portico is not going to change anything about the turning radius of this corner, based on what's already exists there.
Commissioners, any further discussion? We do have the applicant here. Would you like to make a statement? We do. We need to get you to a microphone.
Well, I can't add much to this presentation. This is really detailed. This is going to be my home, and the utility of the home is increased a lot by having this portico at the entrance. And it still is 22 feet from the maintained part of the road. The part that's plowed or that's graded, it's still 22 feet out to that part. So, I wouldn't, as a resident of this town, would not want to do something that would impact the ability for fire engines and that sort of thing to get up the hill. And I don't believe it does, but it does add a lot to the utility of the house. And if someone widened that road till it was 5 feet from my front door, it would really degrade the utility of the house. So I think it's an area that I can get some nice benefit from, and not going to degrade the city or the town from their need to get equipment up that road.
Commissioners, any questions, comments for the applicant? Commissioners, do we have any further discussion you'd like to engage in? If not, we actually have two items. The first item is actually architectural and zoning request.
Yeah, are there any, we have focused on this easement. Are there any questions about the actual architectural or zoning application itself or the design?
I will state that we did, when I was talking to Nate about this, we did use the what is that, it's Pine Street address, right?
Right. Yeah. The initial discussion was what's the front of this house and what's the side, just to determine setbacks, because it is addressed off of Pine Street, then that's the front. So
to me, that seemed to be a pretty good, at least semi-standard for the town. If you've got an address, if you've got a property that's bound by two roads, which is the one is on the address, and we use that as the quote unquote front, because it made a difference with the setbacks for the modifications.
Yeah, you're going to lose those setbacks anyway, though. It's already encroaching. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was worse going the other way.
yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, and that is probably at least the semi-standard we'll probably try to use going forward. If you got property that's bound by two roads, we'll use the one that's actually on the address as the quote unquote front.
And I guess probably the easiest way to motion this would be just the number with or without the easement. To me, I maybe should have separated the two into two different items, but I think if anyone wants to motion, I think it would be the application 2022-02-23 with or without the easement request. And then this also does have to go to the board for final approval, the easement anyway, a part of it. So if it's approved or recommended here, it would go to the board for final approval.
Okay, so if there's
So Nate, to clarify, I'm sorry, can I just clarify? So we're approving the architectural zoning application and recommending approval for the easement, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Todd, well, I'll wait for you if you're signaling for a motion.
okay, so yeah, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll move to approve 202223 architectural zoning application and recommend approval for the right-of-way easement request for 6796 Pine Street.
Hey, Sean, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the architectural and zoning application for 6796 Pine Street and recommend approval for the right-of-way easement request to be furthered on to the board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Lamar, I did not hear you.
She's waiting for the second part, probably.
Sorry, muted. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So,
Well,
yeah,
thanks, and
motion passes.
I'll add it to the next board meeting, which will be May 5th,
Third.
3rd, May 3rd. So
we'll
we'll
get-
see you back. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a conundrum because Sean and I actually be voting to approve it.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
You guys can't vote against it now the next time.
So, yeah. Okay, moving on to item number 7, application 20. Oh, thank you. Application 2022-0405, 11120 Pueblo Avenue, a new deck. We'll go ahead with the staff.
Yeah, so this, Paul and Jerry Yingling are requesting the Planning Commission's consideration for a new deck. The only thing, we just haven't been able to connect on payment, but we will do that soon. I know where you live, Paul, so. But other than that, everything is going through Pikes Peak Regional, and the contractor has done the business licensing and everything required. I should have mentioned that on the other application, same with that. And this is a pretty straightforward application. The proposed deck, none of the setbacks are a concern, but the just for reference, the new deck does sort of fit inside mostly the envelope that the existing structures provide. So no issues from that perspective, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, commissioners, any questions, comments for staff? Paul, did you have a statement you wanted to make?
Well, yeah, so first, apologies, Nate, I've been out of town, so I will be back in tomorrow and I'll pay the fee then to get us up to date. On the building materials, it will be Fibron, which is a TimberTech or Trex-like composite material, so it's fire resistant. I know that's been a concern, but other than that, no, nothing to add to the staff report.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for Paul? The only comment I have is thank you for using fire resistant materials.
I was thinking of you, Lamar, when I was talking to the
Thank you.
contractor.
Thank you.
Okay, so Paul, if you would, at this time, since you're on Zoom, turn your video and audio off. Don't leave the meeting because then it's just a horrible mess to get back in. Nate, do you think that'll work for?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
So how will I know to come back in?
Yeah, good
you
question.
just email me or text me or?
Yeah, this will take like 2 minutes. But
Okay,
we do-
all right, I'll just come back in a bit. All right.
Yeah, we do
You
need to
see-
note the.
Can we
do need to
chat?
note-
Can you
Hang-
send him a
hang on.
chat? Can he see the chat?
Maybe I can do it just
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, I'll leave the chat window open and turn down the volume.
But
All right.
we need to note the time he leaves, which I have as 7:27.
Yeah.
And commissioners, any further discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new deck 20220405 at 11120 Pueblo Avenue.
I'll second the recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the application 2022-0405 for the deck at 11120 Pueblo Avenue. All in favor, say aye.
And
Aye.
Aye. And if we can bring Paul back in at 7:28.
I messaged him.
Okay,
Okay, back. Thank you.
yeah, it passed, Paul. Okay, moving on to old business or code rewrite.
Yes. So we have received the final draft of installment 1, and we're still waiting on installments 2 and 3. And there's also a deadline for this grant of, sorry, I should have put it in here as a memo, but I'll find it real quick. It's the end of June. And basically what we have to do to close out the grant is prove that some new code was accepted by the board. So considering the timeline of all that, we may have to ask for an extension. I've been catching up on all the grant reporting and the review and of all the invoices for requests for reimbursement from that grant. And so we just have to decide as a group here what the best process is moving forward. I've reviewed the first installment. It was about what, I want to say 35 or 50 pages, one of the two. I can open it here real quick, but there's been, I guess, debate on what the best method of reviewing this is in order to come up with a final draft to recommend to the board. The two schools of thought are, just give every member of planning commission the whole drafts and everyone pick it apart, come back with your major or any pain points that you have. And then, the commission goes through it as a group and I guess essentially votes on each of those items. Or the other school of thought is to, I guess, choose maybe staff and one or two members of the planning commission or whatever to review it as a whole, come back with a summary of major changes in order, for those to be discussed. So I don't know. I'm open to your discussion and your decision on that. My only concern, I guess, is the timeline and whether or not we have to apply for an extension.
Yeah, I would like to at least see the information go out to all the commissioners. Now, what we do with it after that, whether we actually do a work session or come back in or just.
Are we resigning tonight?
Technically, we wouldn't have to resign until we actually get sworn in.
Right.
So
We would have time for work sessions between now and then. And I think that's the way to do it, is work sessions regardless. It's just a matter of how long are those work sessions going to be? What's everyone's schedule and availability and
So there's going to
the
be 3
logistics.
sections of 50 pages each. Is that the
About that.
speculation?
That's about right. I don't know that it'll be,
that's a lot.
it could be
That's a
plus or minus, but we have the first one now. You could start with that. I can forward that out immediately. And you can start with that. We could even schedule a work session just for that. And if we get more back before then, that would be a bonus.
Yeah, no, I have had some discussion with Nina. There is a section, there's certain things that I've kind of focused in on for this. And one of them is this major minor concept. And in the original draft she had sent out, she had some exemptions. And I told her, the exemptions may actually cause us more problems because right now we don't have a code enforcement officer. And she was talking about exempting things like fences, hedges, and some other items. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, to actually exempt, would mean the town would have no review of whatsoever.
So are we going to get what she's going to give us with notes, with thought process? Or are we just getting the raw material?
What we've seen so far is pretty much just the raw thing.
Is it a red line version where it shows the changes, or is it just a new version? You got to lay the two side by side and look at it.
It's a new.
And that could be something that I could do, or maybe if someone else had some time to. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea to have that. So it's very obvious and you're not necessarily wasting a lot of time just reading stuff that's not changed. I mean, essentially I think it's all been given a facelift. I mean, I don't think there's many sections that are exactly the same as what they are now.
This is pretty much a fairly significant change because we're going to more of a tabular type format in that.
It's reorganized, so
It's reorganized.
it is more logical in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's things like, what items would actually come in front of a planning commission versus the board. And we've actually got a table for that. That's in this first package that we've received.
Mm-hmm.
The tables that actually have the actual land use, like the thing like Bonsai Village or the marijuana retail sales. We've been told that if you just leave it, if you identify it and leave it blank, then that means we don't allow it as a land use within town.
Yeah,
So
well, I guess. I mean, why is it even listed if you're not going to allow it? I mean, the list could be endless.
It could be, but yeah, some of these major items we may want to actually kind of keep in there, but we haven't got that revised section of the land use table yet. But we have gotten the first part, and that's the part that I had a discussion with Nina on, and she agreed with me. She said, yeah, if you have exemptions, then yeah, it can cause you problems if you don't have a code enforcement officer to kind of go around and see if people are, doing mods on their own and whether they're actually staying within right of ways and property lines and things like that. So the other thing that I talked to her about, I had a question come to me on parking, from one of the previous things we've done with the old fire station. And she's kind of came up with this idea of a downtown business. If there's literally no room for parking, then we may want to consider putting in like, okay, well then you pay a certain amount of money. It goes into a kitty basically to help us deal with parking in the future. And so that's something that just kind of gives you a heads up that you may see in the next sections that are coming in. Yeah, that was her idea.
I think this is going to be a tough get by June.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially if you introduce issues like parking.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be a huge board discussion, and you have to have public, certain amount of public hearings, and so just the timeline itself is stretching it right now. If we don't get something approved within this month, basically, so.
Well,
so I can plan on, that's fine. I mean, I don't mind asking for an extension. I can just certainly plan on doing that, but we need to figure out what schedule works for everyone in terms of work sessions and then planning out the public hearings and having notice and all that.
So you said we had to find something that we could approve in order to meet the requirements for the grant.
The grant, basically, the proof of completion is acceptance of the new code by the town board.
The entirety of everything that's written?
I don't know. No, I mean, it can be a new version of town code.
Okay.
Maybe the new version has 3 major changes, maybe it has 100, but it just has to be a new this rewrite, because the grant is for land use code rewrite. So even if it's a modernization and there's no huge change, and we know there will be changes, but even if it's just a rewrite, a reorganization, a modernization, that counts. But the bottom line is that it has to be approved by the board by that deadline, or we'll need to ask for an extension.
Could we just carve out a part of that and revise it and approve it by the deadline, and then set a goal to approve revise the rest of it over time as we have time and so forth?
That's a good question. I could ask because they don't necessarily know how many chapters we're dealing with, right? So
Yeah.
it could be part of it, but I don't know that it makes sense. The way it's put together, they all link kind of to each other. So it doesn't really,
So
that's
it's
a good
not-
idea. I just don't know if it works.
It's not the spirit of what they're looking for is, I think, what you're saying. Yeah, okay, so can we explore an extension? Because I don't see how we can get through that in this amount of time.
Especially with all the public hearings we're gonna have.
Yeah.
to have.
Well, and Nate, I think it's reasonable that we ask for an extension since we are running so late, primarily due to the attorney's schedule.
Yeah, there was definitely, I mean, we had major staff changes, I will say that, and she said that the whole time, and I reviewed the whole contract and all that, and it was very clear in her contract that she expected a certain amount of town staff help and support. And obviously that whole situation changed, but after she started, but there were other personal issues that came up that no one had any control over. So I think we're justified. I'm not necessarily worried about that, but yeah, I think that's fine to plan on that. And then we can not be rushed. I guess the other question is how much of an extension to ask for.
It really kind of
But-
depends on.
I'll see what the grant
Yeah,
people
feel them out,
say.
feel them out for that, because we've got transition coming as well.
Yeah.
For the planning commission, through the board trustees.
So,
Yeah.
I would say at the minimum, probably at least till the end of August, and maybe even longer, but it just depends. on
Longer the better,
stuff.
probably,
Yeah,
within this
longer
year.
probably the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So I'll get a feel and see what they say. So.
Yep.
Do you want to schedule anything at this point? Like, do you want to have a work session? Just at least we could go over that first installment. It would give us a kind of a blueprint maybe on how the other ones might go, or
We
just
could
to
have a
get something on the
Yeah,
calendar.
we could have a work session on the first installment. However, like I say, I think there are changes to it. Hopefully, coming in, because there's some things in it, especially that section on exemptions, worries me a lot.
But I mean, we can change that too, I mean, we can take
We
her
can.
draft. She doesn't have to, we don't necessarily have to go back and forth with her on everything that we don't agree with. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
that's,
shouldn't either, yeah.
I mean, it's just going to take more time and money, really. So
Yeah.
we can just, if we have a draft that we think is close and we have 10 major issues to discuss as a committee, and then we basically come out with different text at the end that we then, we'd have to have vetted by our town attorneys, just to make sure that it's legal. But I don't necessarily, I think at some point we just kind of stop the back and forth with Nina and review it ourselves and make those decisions. Because
I would agree.
you could argue those points all day long, but it comes down to what the commission and what the board thinks is best for the
Right.
town. So
Absolutely.
I wasn't here when it started, but I presume the idea is to simplify it.
It's to simplify it, make it easier to understand and follow through, because right now, the existing code has pieces in different sections.
Oh,
And you got to go piece all those different sections together to really get the whole picture.
okay.
And it really it has items in it that are non-enforceable. And so we need to get basically something that is solid and hopefully a little easier to understand. And that's why we been going down this tabular format.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this month is pretty packed with activities. We've got usually the normal fourth Tuesday of the month is taken up by that fire mitigation meeting we're having at Sally Bush. So that night's out. But that week, as far as I'm concerned, any of those other evenings could potentially work. 25th, 27th, or 28th. If that's an option for people, just to kind of get one scheduled and start.
Can you get it distributed ahead of that? So we have.
Yeah, I'll send it out. I'll send the copy out via email. I made some comments on it, so I might as well include my comments, but
Yeah.
and then y'all can mark it up, comment, however you want. And then probably if you would send all your comments back to me. If we're looking at that week, realistically, if I had all the comments back by a week from Friday, like the 22nd, then that would give me time to compile them for a work session agenda and sort of try to set up a logical agenda for going through it.
Nate, I saw you sent us something, I believe Dropbox, is that right? Is that where you're gonna put all this, or what, where are we?
I don't remember sending anything Dropbox, but my plan was just to email the Word document to you all.
Okay, somehow I got something that I thought was from you, but maybe not.
Spam, don't open it.
Okay.
Yeah, commissioners, whatever works best. Nate, you're thinking sometime in the week of the 24th.
That's my thought. The Monday is the 25th. 26th is that Sally Bush fire mitigation meeting. But the 25th, 27th, or 28th would work for me. Let me grab my phone real quick.
Todd, with regrets, I'm out of.
In Virginia that week.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay any of those days. Probably the 28th would be better than the 27th. I can do the 25th.
Sorry, I was out of the room. Do we come up with a consensus or no?
Well, I just said I'm in Virginia all that week and
Oh, darn.
would not be able to join.
As long as we can,
I mean, it doesn't
Try to
have to be
figure
that
out a way
week.
to-
I mean,
if we can try to figure out a way to do it with Zoom as well, that might help.
Lamar, is that, I mean, would you even be willing to do a Zoom during that time or?
That week I can't.
Yeah.
I've got a full schedule that week
Gotcha.
in Virginia.
You want us to?
I mean, we
get
could do
our-
later.
you want us to get our comments into you prior to that week so that you can somehow.
Just compile
combine
them
and
and,
compile.
mhm. But it sounds like that week may not be great. So,
It's either that week or we're well into May.
yeah.
And we're well into a new board, a new planning commission and a new board at that point too.
Well, and y'all don't have to plan around my schedule. If y'all do it, go for it.
Lamar, could you get your comments in before you left so that we have your comments?
If I get them in time to do it, I leave on the 23rd.
I'll email it out tonight or tomorrow morning, so you'll have it. And then if I could get them back by the 22nd, then I could compile them all and then have Lamar's comments at least as part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may need to do the same, Nate, because I'll be on Central and Eastern time most of that week. So
Okay. Well, I mean, it's up to you guys. If you're comfortable with doing that and not being part of the meeting, then that's up to
Fine.
you.
That's fine with me. I don't want to be a roadblock to y'all getting it done.
yeah, same.
28th,
28th, is that
that's a Thursday.
that good, Mike?
I'm just pulling a date out of the air.
Yeah, 28 is good with me.
What,
Going forward, just so you know, going forward, stuff's gonna have to be, a lot of times it's gonna have to be on Mondays and Tuesdays for me to be able to
Yeah.
physically be here.
Okay.
Do you want to do it on Monday that
do it
week
on
instead?
I can do it on Monday for sure.
Okay, let's
I
move
can
to
do Monday.
25th.
25th,
Yeah.
25th? Okay.
what time?
Would you want to do it any earlier than usual? Like 5 or even whatever time's good with me. I would just think sometimes earlier the better. If
If I'm here all day. So
It doesn't make any difference time to me.
Yeah, I'm all about getting stuff knocked out, so.
we could even go afternoon.
yeah, it's up to you guys.
Let's shoot for 3.
3. All right.
Or later.
All right, so we're gonna do
Man,
3 o'clock
I like getting stuff.
Monday, the 25th. And I will have to post it as a public meeting. It'll just be a public planning commission work session at that time. And since we're doing that Monday, could we set the deadline back like to the 20th? Is the 20th? If I send out this copy tonight, is having comments back by the 20th realistic?
That's fine.
Okay. Just so I have a couple of days to.
Put the package together.
And I haven't looked at it yet to see what the volume is, but I'm gonna say that's fine.
It's, I can tell you real quick, it's, okay. This one's only 32 pages.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
No, 35. Sorry, I was right the first time. 35.
that's fine.
So better than 50.
No,
Okay, so that works for me. I'll put it on the calendar. I'll send that out to you all. I'll just send it right after the meeting here. And so you'll have it and set a deadline of the 20th to get comments back, and then we'll compile them for that Monday meeting.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get them contacted about the extension on the grant.
Yeah, and I'll contact about the grant extension to get that, make sure that that's all possible and everything. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, moving on to item number 9, other business. Do we have any other business to bring up? Anyone?
None for me. I didn't know. Did we ask for public comment? Did you have any public comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we did not have a,
Oh, no.
okay.
yeah, the Eagles nest here. I don't know if they want to comment.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, no comment on this end. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other business, then we'll go ahead and adjourn. The time is 7:52.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll send that email out right now.
Thanks, Nate.
Yep. Thank you all.
Nick.
Good night.